Things goes on in her life. One of her sisters had a situation alive in her life that she didn't know what was going on, and began to wonder if God was going to move. And the devil would come talk to her saying, well, you can't do this, so you sure can't lay hands on somebody. Who are you? Who are you? Getting stuck in that web and getting the life sucked out of us. That's what God is saying. My plans are to prosper you. Whatever's coming in your life, I know. Whatever's ahead in your life, I know. And I see people right now getting the life sucked out of it. I can name you two right now getting the life sucked out of it. They're getting the life. I don't know what I would do in a situation. I don't. But I can tell you right now, life's getting sucked out of them. They're caught in the web. Because God had a plan. He has a plan in everything that He does. It's like football, if you ever watch football. The offense ever play is to score a touchdown. Defense ever play is to make them do minus yards. But somehow that don't happen. It don't go that way every time. See, it don't go the way man plans it. Man will sit down and watch. They'll watch films of that football team, and they'll watch films of that football team, and they'll try to figure out what's the best way to attack them. And they'll use that plan against them. But they don't win every ball game when they figure out that plan, do they? There ain't nobody goes undefeated all the time. Somebody loses. See, when man's plan's involved in it, there's loss. There's no guarantee of victory. None. No guarantee. But here is a plan that's guaranteed victory. Here is a plan that's guaranteed that you can never, ever lose. If you will get in it and realize that He has a plan to prosper you. He has a plan to bring you to an expected end. He has a plan for a future for you. He has a plan for all things. But we have got to follow the plan that He has and quit doubting what He's doing. When the enemies fly up against us, and we told you many enemies would come against you, you cannot begin to doubt God. You cannot begin to question Him. You have got to follow the plan no matter what hinders you. Just like we said in mining, when the seam gets low, you got to keep going. When the seam runs out, you got to keep going. Because on the other side is bigger mineral. What I have found out in coal mining, when the coal goes completely out, I'll guarantee you just before it goes completely out, it'll jump real big. And then on the other side, it'll jump real big again. Boy, how much more prosperous can we get? The smaller it gets, the bigger it's going to get on the other side. Whenever Job compared it to following a vein of minerals. And that's the way it is in this earth. Whenever a mineral runs out, I'll guarantee you on the other side it's huge. It's big. So Job knows what he's talking about. And back then, I don't even know if they had mining. I don't even know that. I know they didn't have it like we got now. They must have had some little bit of mining. It was on the surface. But he understood it and compared it to life. I got to stay in my vein that God has for me. I've got to stay in the path. If I do not, no matter what my friends say, my enemies, and we can see an all-out war, as we said, between devil and man right there. 3 men being used by Satan against one. And how many times has people been used against you? How many times has situations been used against you? Read the book of Job. You can see an all-out spiritual war going on right there. But your answer from Job every time, I got to stay on the path. I got to stay on the path. You are not going to convince me I sinned. You're not going to convince me I did wrong. You're not going to convince me of these things. But some of you are getting convinced of things. The enemy's trying to convince you that you're wrong. He's trying to convince you you're getting in the wrong path. He's trying to convince you that you've sinned or done something wrong in some way. And you better grab hold of what God's talking about. You better grab hold of the situations before you. And you better grab hold of everything that He has. Because our little carnal mind, like we said in football, anything that we've done in our life, it don't come the way we say it's going to come. It sure don't happen the way we think it's going to happen. And it don't happen those ways. Popular scriptures, Isaiah 55, 7 through 9. I just got to refresh your memory to it. I got to bring you to the terms. 55, Isaiah, verse 7. Let the wicked forsake his ways, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. And let him return unto the Lord, for He will have mercy upon him, and to our God, for the will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither my ways are your ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. And He just got through saying, I have thoughts for you. I have plans for you. But you got to understand they're higher as heaven. High as heaven is from earth. They're so far above your head you can't figure them out if you want to. The only way you're going to figure them out is God gives you understanding about what's going on in the situation. He is not going to give you understanding when you doubt Him. He will never give you understanding when you are in so much confusion and complication that you don't even know which way is up. When your head is hanging down and you got your eyes off the vision, which is Christ. When you got your eyes off Him, there will be no answer. You want one to testify? When Peter stepped out of the boat. When did he sink? When he took his eyes off Jesus. He sunk. And some of you are sinking. Some of you are up to your neck and barely got your lips up in the air, barely sucking air because the enemy's around you. And you're saying, well, God, what's going on? Why have I got so many enemies? What's the things happening in my life? When you need to be saying, God, you know what you're doing. You've got it all figured out. Why do I need to worry about it? You know exactly my enemies, and you will defeat them before me. You will cause them to bow a knee. You will cause them to bow to you. You will cause them to be disappeared or be gone. They cannot harm me. They cannot harm God's chosen people. Touch not mine anointed and do my prophets no harm. And you are God's called high people. And we are a high called church. Ask any visitor when they walk through those doors what they feel when they walk through the doors of this church. And I can't do that. I cannot make the Spirit of God do anything. I cannot. I cannot make Him do one thing. I've got to welcome Him, and He'll use me if He wants to. It's His duty to do whatever He wants to do. I can't make God do one thing. I can beg and plead and snot and holler all I want to, but that ain't going to help one thing with what God is doing. But when are we going to quit trying to figure it out? And when all we need to understand is that He's got a great plan. All you got to do is stay on the path. All you got to do is trust Him. That's all you got to do. That's the only thing you've got to do. And we cannot let our enemies distract us. And Job shows us that clearly. We see a clear spiritual warfare there. Clear. How the enemy will use 3 men against him, plus his flesh, plus the enemy was talking to him. He had 5 enemies against him. And that man would not turn off the path for nothing or nobody. He wouldn't turn. He knew that he was right. He knew that he'd done exactly what God asked him to do, and he was not going to turn no matter what happened in his life. Because he said, my Redeemer liveth. And that's where the song comes from. My Redeemer liveth. My Redeemer liveth. He knew it. He knew that one day he'd be redeemed. And as far as scholars know, it took a year. We can't wait one day for God to move situations out of our life before we begin to question, why am I under attack? Why is this going on? When we told you clearly in Paul, the last statement Paul said, I have fought the fight. That means to the very end, I have fought a fight. I fought a fight all the way till they chopped my head off. The enemy fought me all the way, but he lost. I am now going to heaven, is what he's saying. And it's all the riches is laid up for me in heaven. That's what he's saying. You're going to fight to the day you leave here. But when are you going to recognize God has a plan for you? When are you going to recognize He knows what He's doing, and all we got to do is stay on the path? That's all we got to do. Just get up every day, no matter what hits you between the eyes, no matter what enemy comes at you, no matter if your 3 best friends comes up